Thank you for joining our webinar today. I'm Claire Valente and I'm joined by my colleague Jason Doherty, and we're here to tell you about the EXEED Certified Grant Scheme. Here's a look at the agenda for our presentation. I'm going to start with a high-level overview of EXEED. What is it, who is it for, and why you should be interested. Jason will then take us through a number of case studies showcasing how organisations have implemented the EXEED process. I'll then bring you through a number of the sectors that have benefited from the scheme to date, the average savings that they've achieved, and the types of energy saving opportunities that they have implemented. Next, I'll explain how to apply, and we'll finish up with some quotes from past participants. For those of you not familiar with EXEED, it stands for Excellence in Energy Efficient Design. We have €14 million available this year for EXEED grants, and we're expecting similar or higher levels over the next couple of years. EXEED is first and foremost a standardized methodology for energy efficient design. It's applicable to organizations that are making a significant investment in an asset. So for example, a new build, a major renovation, or a major energy upgrade. Companies can achieve EXEED certification of their asset, and you can see the EXEED plaque there. Companies receive this plaque once they become EXEED certified. The EXEED grant scheme started in 2016 as a pilot, and you can see that it has now reached all 26 counties. We have some figures here on the left showing the combined impact of the projects supported by the EXEED grants to date. About 85 gigawatt hours of primary energy savings each year, which is 85 million kilowatt hours. That corresponds to around 6.7 million euros in energy cost savings annually and 27,000 tonnes of CO2. EXEED is for organisations that are making significant investment in an asset. So for example, a completely new building, a new or existing process, or a major renovation or a major energy upgrade of an existing building. We can provide EXEED grants of up to €1 million per project. But even without the grant, the EXEED approach to energy efficient design makes a lot of sense. EXEED sets out a clear process to help organisations design for optimum energy performance. So it's going further than installing a more efficient boiler, for example. It's looking at the full range of energy uses, such as heating, cooling, ventilation, refrigeration, compressed air. By helping companies to identify the best opportunities specific to their asset, EXEED can reduce energy bills and the associated carbon emissions. This can increase competitiveness, and you saw the EXEED plaque earlier. It shows a commitment to sustainability, which can help boost your green credentials. This diagram shows the energy saving potential for investments over time. The blue line shows that right at the beginning of a design project, the saving potential is high, and the associated investment cost, shown in orange, is low. However, as you progress beyond the design phase of the project into procurement, then construction and commissioning, the saving potential decreases and the cost of making energy saving investments increases. This is because of the lock-in effect of building something inefficient. Once an asset is built, it's expensive to change it. This emphasizes the importance of considering energy efficient design as early as possible in your design project. The sooner you begin, the greater the scope for significant changes. There are two stages of grant support available. The first is the pre-investment stage. Typically, this involves the fees for an energy efficient design expert to undertake some EXEED studies. This is to ensure that the project is going in the right direction so that your asset will have good energy performance. The maximum grant available for a large organisation is 50%, but this increases to 60% for medium companies and 70% for small size companies. The second stage is the capital investment stage. Stage 2 support is available for the incremental capital costs above and beyond your baseline, and also for the investment stage professional fees. The maximum grant available for large companies is 30%, but this increases to 40% for medium-sized companies and 50% for small-sized companies. This slide gives an overview of the types of expenditure that can be supported. At stage 1, we would generally see energy efficient design expert fees, but depending on the type of project, there may be other types of professional fees too. At stage 2, we've included some examples here of the types of equipment that have been supported to date, but generally any opportunities that will deliver energy savings are eligible, along with the associated installation costs and professional services. And now we'll hear from Jason about some EXEED case studies.
Thanks, Claire. I'll try and get the next slide up here. Just want to change. There we go. Okay, so thanks, Claire, for that intro. So today I'm going to quickly give a snapshot of some companies who have implemented this process that Claire touched on. So it's a standardized methodology you follow to optimize the life cycle energy and carbon consumption of this your particular asset. So I'm going to start off by talking about Dublin Airport Authority. So they completed an EXEED project a couple of years ago on their car park. So all energy consuming processes, plant and equipment across their surface car parks and Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 multi-story car parks. So they would have identified this through they have an existing ISO 50001 management system. So lighting and the car park energy consumption was deemed a significant energy user. So in terms of, obviously they implemented this process, and which ended up being predominantly a major lighting upgrade, and they achieved huge savings, as you can see here, up to 80% energy savings. But to bring it back maybe to the process, so the process starts with developing a plan. And in this plan, the EXEED standards requires you to essentially meet 13 to 14 headings. So you must look at your energy efficiency design objectives. You must look at your criteria for setting significant energy use. And there's a number of items that the standard sets out that you must address. The second, after you've done that initial planning and kind of risk identification and opportunity identification, you develop what's called an energy balance study. So Dublin Airport would have developed what I've shown here on the slide. It's just simply a pie chart which breaks down where am I using energy, and helps you identify, well, what are the biggest energy users? Because in order to identify the optimum energy savings, you want to go after the big energy users. So you complete this energy balance study of the baseline design, which then informs, well, okay, what are my target areas to really get into the nuts and bolts of what EXEED is, which is challenging and analyzing. So I'll get into what Dublin Airport did, which was slightly different from your standard audit approach. They used what's on the right hand side here is the energy Venn diagram. So this is the heart of EXEED. It's what makes it very much different to your standard approach to identifying opportunities. So quite simply, maybe to give a comparison, typically when you might walk into a building and identify opportunities by starting at the third layer here, the equipment layer, looking at what state is the equipment in, is there more new energy efficient models on the market, and replace equipment like for like, but without ever really challenging, well, what is the energy service? Why do I need energy in the first place? And what process do I have of delivering that energy service? And is there a different process out there that I could use? So that's what EXEED requires. To put it quite simply, you need to challenge the fundamental reason that you're using energy and work outwards, as opposed to just going right in and focusing on the equipment or energy conversion layer. And it's all about that kind of 5 whys, that continuously asking the why to get to the root cause of any particular energy use. So what makes Dublin Airport different as well? They challenged the fundamental, I suppose, lighting standards and lighting levels. It wasn't just a case of ended up being like upgrading lights, old ones for new models. They challenged lux levels and challenged the standards, and they challenged the suppliers to ultimately, I suppose, which resulted in a real optimum lighting upgrade that involved individual lighting controls, as well as particularly reduced lux levels compared to what they would have typically put in if they hadn't taken this kind of EXEED holistic systems thinking type approach. I've put up some of the questions that they asked during the challenge and analyze process here, such as, were original design parameters applied correctly? Are there areas that need less lighting? And that's fundamental for EXEED, is that EXEED isn't just about replacing equipment. You ask these type of questions. So ultimately, they resulted in large savings for them, up to 80% that I mentioned at the start. But there's also the co-benefits of taking this approach, the EXEED approach, is that not only did they achieve huge cost and energy savings, this sets standard for future design and procurement for them going forward. And one of the big benefits for them was the reduced operational costs. And I've a link put up here, but we do have other information to a number of case studies on our website for anyone that is interested following this presentation, that you can go onto our website and see more examples. So now I'm going to move on to the second example and maybe use this example to talk about another key process or phase in the EXEED process, which is defining your organization structure at the start. So this is a pub and restaurant facility called the Monaster Boyce Inn in County Louth, and they adopted EXEED when they were building an extension, 150-seater conference room onto their existing building. So they decided to use the EXEED process to kind of put a structure on that new development, but also look for new energy saving opportunities in the existing building. So as a result of the process, they completed down on the bottom left-hand corner, they did insulation upgrade, they did put in smart lighting, which I'll touch on, heat pumps and smart controls. So I'll take you through, but one of the key things, so they would have done the plan like Dublin Airport, they would have completed the energy balance of the building, and which included assumptions for the new build element of the project. And then they would have identified what are the big energy users that they were going to target. But then, like Dublin Airport would have done this, but I felt this one was probably a really good example of EXEED requires two new roles, which are in orange here, which is an energy efficient design owner and an energy efficient design expert. Essentially, the ED owner is the kind of a person responsible, usually on the organization side, who would report to top management and is responsible for implementing the standard. But then one of the other key roles is this independent energy efficient design expert, who is responsible for the day-to-day energy efficient design activity. So a lot of the deliverables that I'm talking about, the plan, the energy balance study, the calculations, all that study type stuff, identification of opportunities, falls on the shoulders of the energy efficient design expert, who is responsible for them, but can also delegate when required. But in the case of Monaster Boyce Inn, they had a number of workshops, that challenge and analyze process that I talked about for Dublin Airport. They got the architects, the ED expert, the ED owner, the owner of the facility in the room, challenging the design of the new build, and also challenging, well, what areas could we look at for opportunities in space heating, for example, or refrigeration, or other significant energy uses that were in the facility, which had a huge knock-on effect because they were able to get those conversations happening early, which ultimately, and you'll see some of the solutions that they did, how that came about by having those people involved in conversations early on. So I just thought I'd show up one of the unique opportunities, which kind of highlights the maybe thinking outside the box in terms of the approach that EXEED is trying to drive, is that they had a stream running adjacent to the building, and through this process and conversations and getting the appropriate experts involved, they've seen an opportunity to install a water source heat pump to provide heating and cooling for the building. So they basically made use of a local stream, and you see the arrow there is pointing towards what the picture is showing is just next door to the facility. They've made use of this stream to, I suppose, install a renewable energy source, which was great, something they wasn't on their radar before I suppose the process started. On top of that, so as a result of all this and the opportunities they implemented a number of opportunities in their kitchen, extract fans and heat recovery. And they also did in the new conference center, which you can see on this photo, they actually, through those conversations with the architect early on, they found a solution to install a kind of a light dome. I think you might be able to see it in the top right corner of this photo, which obviously makes more use of daylight and reduces the need for artificial lighting, if you like. They also have, having visited the facility, they have their smart iPads behind the bar controlling the lights and the lux levels and all, which they're very proud of. And I've just included a quick quote here from the owner of the facility, which might give you an idea of, I suppose, the benefits that they found, and particularly focused on it just challenged the way they would have done things normally, which is and got them to think maybe outside the box, which is one of the key areas that EXEED is trying to drive. And then I'm just going to finish with two other quick case studies to give a quick example. This is Johnson & Johnson Vision Care, who used EXEED in the development of a new gym facility on their site in Limerick. And this was an example of EXEED applied to a new build. So EXEED can be applied to new build as well as existing buildings or to major renovations. But this is an example where they used EXEED to actually go 25% over and above the requirements of building regulations. So it's a good example of EXEED as Claire said, it's excellence in energy efficient design. It's trying to go over and above the standards that are out there. And they did a number of things such as air source heat pumps, VSDs on fans, LED lights, etc. So again, another good example of following this process to go above and beyond what's required. And they were the first new build actually to become EXEED certified. So Dublin Airport, Monaster Boyce, Johnson & Johnson, and finally the REVO example, which I'll just move on to now. There we go. So REVO, again, a milk processing facility in County Donegal, also applied this process and got certified for a major energy upgrade project they did at the plant up there. They were the first plant in Ireland as a result, again, of these challenging conversations and getting back into the nuts and bolts of why we're using energy, to use heat pump generated water at 80 degrees. And we're now seeing other companies getting interested in, well, just how did they do that? Why it might be something that they could do. They achieved an 85% reduction in oil use, which obviously, again, moving away from fossil fuels, real positive outcome for their project. And again, there's more details on their project and video case studies up on our website for anyone that's interested. I think that's me. I'll hand you back to Claire. I think she's going to talk about some of the sectors and opportunity types that we've seen to date.
Thanks for that, Jason. It's really interesting just to look back on some of those projects that have been successful in implementing the EXEED process to date. So these 14 organizations have already achieved EXEED certification of an asset. And I know a lot of other companies are going through the process of becoming certified. All of the projects that Jason talked about just now are listed here. I've included this table just to show you that EXEED can apply to a wide range of asset types and project types. You can see a mix of new build, renovation, and major energy upgrade projects here. And the types of sectors range from manufacturing plants to a hotel and a business park, for example. I'm just going to touch briefly on some of the sectors where we have seen significant savings over the last few years. And don't worry, these slides are going to be available for the foreseeable future on our website. If you're interested, you can come back and you should be able to find all of this information on our website. You can see here that we've supported 8 cold storage projects to date. This slide shows the types of opportunities we've supported in this sector. You can also see the average savings achieved and the average payback with and without the EXEED grant. We have supported 35 manufacturing projects to date. The green box on the right lists some of the types of manufacturing that we have supported. So there have been very significant savings in the sector and a wide range of opportunity types have been supported to date. We've also supported 9 projects in the leisure sector to date. The impact of the grant on the average payback period is a bit higher overall here, but this is simply due to the organisation size, as we've seen that SMEs can get a higher grant percentage. We've supported 18 hotel projects to date, and we've supported 7 office projects to date. We've supported 41 retail projects to date, and note that if a retail chain or any kind of chain applies for an EXEED grant, each site will need a separate application. It is worth contacting us in advance in those kind of cases, just to make sure you're going about it the right way. We have also supported projects in other sectors, but these slides are just covering some of the most common ones that we have had to date. So if you're from a different sector, feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Now, how to apply. As we saw, earlier in the presentation, the earlier you begin energy efficient design in your project, the better. Once you know you're planning a project, you can apply for an EXEED Stage 1 grant. You'll need to appoint an energy efficient design owner from your organisation. They'll be the lead applicant for the grant, and they'll have responsibility for ensuring that energy efficient design is implemented for your project. You'll need to identify a suitable energy efficient design expert for your project. Then you can complete your Stage 1 grant application. It will take us up to 3 weeks to issue a grant letter of offer. Once you receive that letter of offer, you can get your energy efficient design expert to carry out the EXEED studies supported by the Stage 1 grant. Once those studies are complete, you will have a comprehensive list of the types of opportunities suited to your asset. Once you've made a decision on which ones you'd like to invest in, you can then submit a Stage 2 application for capital grant support. It will take us about 4 to 8 weeks to evaluate your Stage 2 application. It will take a little bit longer for large projects that are above €250,000. Once you receive the grant letter of offer, you can then commence any grant supported activities. Note that there's no requirement to apply for a Stage 1 grant. You can apply directly at Stage 2 if you've already completed the EXEED studies. The EXEED studies will need to be submitted as part of your application. This slide sets out the high-level eligibility criteria. Grant support is available for projects that follow the EXEED Energy Efficient Design process. We can issue grant offers in 2021 for works that will be completed by the 1st of October 2022. EXEED grants can only be used to support opportunities that are making progress to national climate policies. So, for example, fossil fuel upgrades are only eligible in exceptional cases. Value for money is very important. We can only support projects with a payback period greater than 2 years and less than 20 years. We only support projects where the asset's annual energy consumption is 100,000 kilowatt hours or greater, which would be approximately 10 to 20,000 euros per year in an energy bill. Under state aid rules, we can only support projects that need support. We can't support works where the grant will not have any impact. Full details of the eligibility rules are set out in the EXEED Grant Scheme Guidelines, which is available on our website. This is a comprehensive document with all the information that you'll need before applying. Our online application form is available on our website too, and we also have an instructions manual and a PDF version for reference. Our contact details are here, so if you have any questions at all, please do get in touch. And now we have some quotes from previous grant scheme participants. I think these are helpful in showing the impact that EXEED can have in real-world projects. And that's it from us. If you have any questions, please get in touch. We hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thanks, everyone.